The Chicago Bears are currently still riding their win from the Thursday night football game against the Washington Commanders. We're going to talk about things that point towards this team being able to turn things around with the time left remaining in the season. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And first up, we're going to talk about, overall, this is a list of things that are positive signs for the Chicago Bears that they can turn this season around. And we're going to start right off with QB1, and that is Justin Fields. He is truly starting to put it all together. When you look at over the last two games, over 617 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 1 interception with that said, and Justin Fields is starting to not only build that chemistry with DJ Moore that we heard about in the offseason, but he's starting to look like a pocket presence, right? He's starting to understand when and where and how to get his throws out when he needs to in the right amount of time. And we talked about in that game against the Washington Commanders, Justin Fields was actually better when he had less time in the pocket, right? Under 4 seconds when he made that decision. He is starting to turn around and become that quarterback that we wanted to see, using his legs to complement his arm, and that's what we're starting to see. He's picking apart, responding to pressure extremely well, and that's not anything to overlook, right? We have not seen Justin Fields really like he has been in the last 2 games in the pocket at all consistently over his NFL career. Yeah, on some plays, but we've now put together 2 games where Justin Fields is quarterbacking, right? Where he is extending plays, where he's moving around in the pocket, where he's understanding how when he has that clean pocket to use that to go down the field. And that is paying off for him. It's paying off for DJ Moore. And that is one of the things that is definitely a sign of positivity for the Chicago Bears team to be able to turn it around. 2 great outings in a row outside of the fumble and interception that we talked about in 2 games ago. But outside of that, he's really starting to put it together. And him and DJ Moore are ascending at the right time together like we hope to do. Now, it's up to Justin to show that this isn't just a flash in the pan. It's up to Justin to show that this is something that we can start relying on, that we can start betting on, that we can start seeing from him consistently. But at least for just evaluating, right now, the Chicago Bears the Chicago Bears QB1 and Justin Fields is really starting to look like a quarterback. Outside of just looking like an athletic freak like he's always been, he's starting to look like a quarterback, and that is going to show growth. Now, one thing that I've talked about as well is that how this team adjusts to how other teams adjust to DJ Moore going forward is going to be a big part of the story. And Justin Fields, once other teams start double teaming DJ Moore to try to take now his best weapon away from him, how he gets and incorporates Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, right? The other players, other wide receivers, Roschon Johnson, and everybody in that game is going to be hugely telling because they're coming. And they're going to try to take that weapon in DJ Moore away from him. And Luke Getsy and Justin Fields have to figure out how to spread that ball around and make more things click for that Chicago Bears offense if they want to continue to look good and turn it around. Now, we talked about Justin Fields. We talked a little bit on Luke Getsy, but we also got to talk about the offensive line for the Chicago Bears with Nate Davis returning in full, Tevin Jenkins returning in a certain amount of snaps, and as he gets, gears up to be full go for the Chicago Bears again, it's hugely important for these 2 guys to come back. When you look at Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins, Nate Davis in last week's game allowed for only 2 pressures, 2 QB hits, and made a huge impact in the running game. When you look at Tevin Jenkins, in the snap that he played, did not allow a single pressure or sack on Justin Fields in his time out there. Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis are hugely important for this offensive line to be able to have success. And I know while there's some initial, doubts and, concerns around Nate Davis and, prayers up to him for everything that he's had to deal with in his personal life, when he's been on that football field, it's been a difference made. And when you pair those 2 guys along with Darnell Wright, the young rookie, those 2 guards with that tackle on Darnell Wright, and if Braxton Jones can come back and get to looking more how he looked in the second half of last season, that offensive line is another thing that seems to be trending up for the Chicago Bears. And the way that they performed against that front 4 of the Washington Commanders left so much signs for positivity from this offensive line that has been a struggle. We still got some holes. Cody Whitehair as a center, it just ain't it for me. Lucas Patrick had a concussion, so we don't know what's going on with him. So we're going to have to shore up that center position long term. But at least right now, the offensive line is still trending up in that right direction. And Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis are a huge part of that, as well as the consistent play that we've gotten from Darnell Wright as a rookie tackle as well. Now, talking about rookies, we also got to talk about how the rookies on defense are really starting to come along for the Chicago Bears. When you look at Javon Dexter's last game, right, he had his best game of the season against the Washington Commanders. And while it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows for him or Zach Pickens, right, Javon Dexter is starting to show the right things and the things that we need to see from him. He had a pass deflection. He had 2 QB hits, right? And so he's showing in what he's done in the snaps right now that he's playing well. When you look at according to Pro Football Focus, he finished last game with 6 QB pressures, a pass rush grade of 82.4, and a pass rush win rate of 22%. That is nothing to shake your head at. Javon Dexter is starting to come along at the right time for the Chicago Bears, and that defense, like I said, it's starting to shore up some things. There's still some questionable things with that defense, right? I don't want to overlook that, but the rookies are really starting to show up. Zach Pickens as well, having some struggles, but looking good in certain times. But then you also have to look at Tyreek Stevenson. He's gone through his trials, right? And much like Kyler Gordon last year, just really starting off getting picked on by opposing teams. We've seen that. He's had times where he struggled in coverage, absolutely, right? But that high motor is starting to come along for Tyreek Stevenson, him having a really good game for the Chicago Bears in the last game. And then when you factor in that secondary, you're getting healthy players coming back to that secondary as well. Jalen Johnson already been reported. He's going to be back for the game against the Vikings, right? So with the way that the defensive rookies are trending on top of the players you're getting back now from injury, things are starting to look up for the Chicago Bears defense as well, at least on paper, and let's hope that that continues. But when you look at Tyreek Stevenson, 9 total tackles last game, 5 of those being solo, 1 pass deflected, right? You cannot overlook that as well. And then we got to also talk about, if we're talking about things trending up, you got to talk about Greg Stroman Jr., who came in. He was on the practice squad. He came in. He's gone through his trials, right? But he's had 2 solid performances in back-to-back games as well, and he's showing that even when Kyler Gordon comes back, you need to make sure that you're getting Greg Stroman some snaps in there as well. 7 tackles from Stroman, 1 sack, 1 pass deflected, 1 QB hit, an interception. Listen, Greg Stroman Jr. is looking like a potential monster for the Chicago Bears team, and he's a big reason as well, as long as with the improvements and the players we're getting back healthy in that secondary, while things may be trending up for the Chicago Bears sooner rather than later, and you cannot take any of that away. Now, of course, some signs for concern and positivity with the coaching staff. Luke Getsy has called 2 really good halves in 2 games back-to-back. First halves in 2 games back-to-back. Second halves have left something to be desired from the execution standpoint and from the play calling standpoint. But like I said, with that Washington Commanders game, I'm giving him a little benefit of the doubt just because of how we lost almost every running back in that game. And it seemed like a game where we were starting to get that running game going a little bit more right before Khalil Herbert went down. We had already lost Roschon Johnson at that point. So I'm going to give him a little bit of credit for that. But he's called 2 really, really good first halves in back-to-back games. Let's hope that that's going to come around. Again, I'm still not in on Luke Getsy saying like he should stay here as this offensive coordinator long-term for the Chicago Bears or anything like that. But I can acknowledge that there are some signs of positivity from Luke Getsy and his play calling, and he's making the most out of it even after, Khalil Herbert, Travis Homer, and Roschon Johnson all went down, bringing in fullback Hari Blasingame to come in as the halfback at that point, and he got creative in that in a little bit, right? But when you lose 3 of your halfbacks, it's kind of hard to do that in. But like I said, got to acknowledge the growth that it seems like is coming from Luke Getsy as well. I don't know if it continues or not, but let's hope that it does, because there's some things to show that that's trending in the right direction as well. Now, Matt Eberflus, and overall, one of the biggest negatives and signs for concern from this team is the halftime adjustments. Right now, we have not been a team on offense or defense. It seems like it's really adjusted well at halftime, whereas other teams have really adjusted well to us. That's something that I want to see kind of get shorn up for the Chicago Bears as well. And if they can do that, some things may happen. So, we'll end up seeing what happens with that. But overall, I really do feel like the Bears are trending in the right direction. Like I said, the offense is on a roll. Offensive line, with all the changes and lack of continuity that we've had there, that continuity seems to be coming a little bit more for the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, DJ Moore are absolute dogs and are trending up in the right way. So, we got some things that we need to work out, right? Where there in no way am I saying that all of a sudden the Bears are going to be this team that absolutely turns everything around for this season, because listen, starting off 0-4, it's really tough. That is such a hole to dig yourself in as a franchise and team that is kind of hard to come out of that, right? But if the Bears, it depends on how you view it, right? How you view what needs to happen for the rest of the season. We'll see. We'll see. And the Bears, they can only take it game by game. They need to improve as they can improve. And it is what it is when it comes down to it. But listen, I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, the Bears are looking better in a lot of facets, a lot of different areas. We need to get healthy. As this team gets more healthy, those trends can look even better. The Carolina Panthers are still looking like absolute garbage, right? So it seems like that pick is going to be a high pick for the Chicago Bears. But if they want to compete in this division, we've now allowed the Detroit Lions to build in enough of a buffer in that division where it's going to be tough for the Chicago Bears, right? And the Detroit Lions is, I made fun of that clip that came out from David Montgomery and the Lions saying they want to set the tone in the division. But hey, for what it's worth, they've basically done that right now, right? And, when you look at them, they're 4-1 in the division, right? The only team that's even close to them is the Green Bay Packers, and they're 2-2, right? So, we'll see what can turn around for the Chicago Bears. Right now, they need to focus on themselves. They need to focus on getting healthy. They need to focus on execution and shoring up some of the things. Tackling still a huge issue for the Chicago Bears team. Let's hope that gets fixed as well. You now have injuries. We know Khalil Herbert's going to miss some significant time for the Chicago Bears as well. That doesn't help us in what we're trying to do. So, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. We got rid of Chase Claypool, who was inactive against the Dolphins. It's 1 week, so maybe, that's it. But he started off with them being inactive as well. But, we'll see what happens with this team. But let me know, what are some of the signs that you guys see as trending in the right direction for the Chicago Bears? What are some signs that you still are concerned about when it comes to the Chicago Bears and their most recent games? Let me know all that down below. But otherwise, make sure you're following the show at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for our mailbag that goes down on Fridays and Saturdays, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.